The Walt Disney Company has been no stranger to legal losses of the past 5 years, but Gina Carano's case against the House of Mouse for discrimination in particular has everyone watching with great interest. And with the discovery process now well underway, it appears we have an update regarding Disney's legal strategy in attempting to limit the scope of both what is claimed to be relevant and what is ultimately made public. Let's talk about the protective order filed by the Walt Disney Company in the case brought by Mandalorian actress Gina Carano here on That Park Place.
Well, we have not done an update on this Gina Carano story, so I think we ought to do that right quick. Gina Carano and the Walt Disney Studios Company agree to limited protective status in lawsuit. Read the order. This one put up by WDW Pro. Gina Carano and the Walt Disney Company have come to an agreement in regards to documents that will be turned over in her lawsuit against Disney, Lucasfilm, and more. The court has ordered a protective order in an effort to safeguard secrets related to The Mandalorian, as well as potential The Mandalorian Grogu movie. Although it appears Carano is aiming to make as much public as possible, Disney reserves the right to argue in favor of keeping documents secret, despite a good faith clause for making as much readable as possible. Whether or not that will slow down the proceedings has yet to be seen, but there's a strong chance that it just might do so. Hey, look, there's Gina, and we have the actual order here. Hey, Vash, I notice here there's a name right here at the top. That's Daniel Petrocelli. What can you tell us about that guy?
That was old. That was Harvey Weinstein's old lawyer back in the day, and he was busy allegedly trying to silence victims of Harvey Weinstein when those issues were going on. He's also the guy that tried to mount the First Amendment defense for the Walt Disney Company as it relates to what happened in Florida via the RCID, now SIFTOG. You can see how well that went. And I believe he also was speaking on behalf of Disney when it came to Scarlett Johansson and those issues. That didn't go very well. And now Gina Carano, I believe he's tried to mount another First Amendment argument in which they felt that they had the right in order to associate themselves with anybody that they chose under the auspices of the First Amendment. And well, that was rejected as well. That was an attempt to get this case dismissed. So Daniel Petrocelli, he's a very interesting person, to say the least.
Yeah, if he, in his personal relationships, is as, let's say, aggressive as he is in his litigation, I think I might pass on that friendship there. Whew. My goodness. So we've read through this protective order, and so has our good friend, Mr. Ron Coleman. And Ron Coleman, I got a text from him last night asking to go over it and just asking him, hey, how typical is an agreement like this? And he says this is not a crazy thing for Disney and Gina Carano to agree to before they go into something like this, since trade secrets could be relevant to the case. There are certain levels here. There's the attorney's eyes only thing there, that even if you if there's a relevant need to it, even the client might not necessarily see it. But in this case, if it's something related to plot details for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, or plot details if season 4 of the Mandalorian should ever come out, by the way, it's never coming out because that got adapted and made into the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, as far as we understand it here. This is something where, on a case-by-case basis, they are supposed to go through and determine whether or not something should have a special protective status. They're not allowed to do a blanket, like all things that say Gina Carano in them, or all things that say, let's say, Kathleen Kennedy, not to pick on anyone at Lucasfilm in particular, to just say, since she's the head of Lucasfilm as a studio here, although there might be people involved in the production that would come up. Like, for instance, Leslie Headland, we know that she donated to a GoFundMe or some kind of fan funding service that was paying for some kind, I don't know if it was reparations for the things that Gina said, or something in order to re-educate Gina that they also wanted Gina to donate to. By the way, in Gina's filings, it showed that someone from Lucasfilm, a Lucasfilm employee, had actually set up that GoFundMe. My goodness, it's what a piece of work. So when looking at this, guys, are you expecting Disney to play fair when deciding what should and should not be protected in this lawsuit?
No, yeah, this is a protective order to both one, limit the scope of this discovery process, and two, they're going to say, well, we got trade secrets. We got to keep everything as confidential as possible in order to try to take the wind out of Gina's sails when it comes to exposing as much as she wants exposed. So they're playing more legal games right here and trying to minimize the exposure of the Walt Disney Company to this whole thing. And by the way, Daniel, don't sue me. I should say alleged defending of Harvey Weinstein against certain victims right there, even though, allegedly we'll pull you through the mud by your hair, New York Times. Okay, just saying. But still, I think the Walt Disney Company understands that this discovery process could be very damaging to them, and so this protective order attempts to mitigate as much of that as possible. And it's kind of unfortunate because I know Gina, from what I have seen and what I've made of her comments, it looks like one of the big things that she was out to do here was to, like I said before, expose as much of this as possible and really clear her name, because they had just so poisoned the well when it came to her employment status on an ongoing basis in Hollywood that to get a lot of this information out, I think, was crucial. Now they can say, well, should this be included in this discovery process? Should this actually be, detailed out in court documents and so forth? It's tough.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, the questions are going to be related to probably how they treat other actors. For instance, there's an email out there where Bob Chapek is talking about what happened on January 6th, and also then a question about how they're going to handle Gina Carano, as if those two things had anything to do with each other. So, and then you get to issues like, I don't know, Mark Hamill and some of the comments that he's made, or Pedro Pascal and the comments that he has made that are calling one side reprehensible, or well, maybe that's not a direct quote. I'm paraphrasing when I say this, comparing one side of the political aisle to the rebels in the Civil War, and also the people who did really bad things around the 1930s over there in Germany. So there's that, and there's of course young Miss Rachel Zegler, who made amazing levels of commentary for a movie that should have been just simple, slap the Disney label on it, corporate product. Instead, turned that into a huge culture war issue because she could not be quiet on any number of subjects, including ones that have nothing to do with the United States political system. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not Mr. Hamill, Ms. Zegler, Mr. Pascal end up having the social media commentary from the company coming up in court, and whether or not Disney considers things that would be damaging and therefore positive for the other side's case, whether that is considered trade secrets, whether that is considered potentially commercially damaging to the Walt Disney Company. I don't know. This is going to be fascinating to me. Do you guys have any more commentary on that before we move on?
I look at it like, this will have that chilling effect in other studios. Because again, once all this stuff is exposed, and a compare and contrast essay can be drafted by some lawyer that can be, out there in the public about how, these things are, obviously unfair treatment, and that these extremists on this side can do just extraordinarily terrible things. I think you're gonna see a lot of studios clamping down on their stars. I think they're gonna be like, look, if you want to be in this project, you're handing over your social media. You can't comment on this project in relationship to anything else that you have an interest in, whether it be politics or whatever. I think you're gonna start to see not just social media teams like Miss Zegler got, but I think you're going to see like basically socials run by the studios, because there's no way they want to sacrifice their projects on the on the petard of any of these people's perspectives.
Which, I gotta be honest, it may be not the worst idea in the world, because we have seen so many celebrities just tank these projects. I mean, $100 million projects, because it's like, oh, let's associate this with this. And it's like, wow, let's not. And I understand maybe that doesn't work out so great in Gina Carano's case, and maybe she's not able to speak freely, but at the same time, at the same token, maybe not everybody or everybody associated with these works is not able to speak as freely as they'd like, if only to protect so many people involved in these projects going forward. I don't think it's the worst idea. I understand. I get it. You know, the ability to forego your free speech if you take on a project is a complicated issue. I get that. But when you're talking about investments that are like $250 million, to have some actor come out there and completely tank it before it even gets off the ground, think about how many lives it affects. Think about how many people it affects. Think about the franchises involved right there. I think a lot of people would be okay with such a policy being implemented.
Yeah. The other thing I'll add here is that the movie studios were glad to use the extra momentum that social media got them. And unfortunately, as everything got political, and the studios were behind everything getting political, and I'm not, they were going along with it and glad to support it. I don't want to say that they were the reason that everything went political, although they could have, case could be made. They were fine to make their movies political in that way, and to make stupid comments like, oh, well, this character is obviously has notes of, and then someone that they believe to be an evil person, and to imply that that political figure is evil, and then also to say that they're basing their villain off of that person. It's like, it's very off-putting to half the audience. So they're happy to take the positive aspects of social media, and they were not prepared to take the negative aspects of social media. So I think this is all a problem of the studios making, and I'm interested to see how it turns out when they, if any of these kinds of discussions end up being made public, while from the Gina Carano case. I think that's going to be fascinating.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.